so that it can get back up. Okay, there we go. Gosh, I really don't want to have to explain this for a third time. Okay, now, all right, we're going to discuss the divine feminine in the Black community, right? So, being a melanated being, we have a certain place in the Black community. This is like my third time, so I'm skipping through some parts. So, as melanated beings, we literally came here to help. We have melanin in our blood. Our melanin has light crystals. Our melanin makes our frequency higher. When we die, we have a better chance of ascending than people without melanin. It just is what it is. We are here. Watch the video on the blue and purple way. We are the blue and purple ray. We came here to anchor in the will of God, freedom, justice, right? We are the justice for this earth, but we are also the Christos blood. So, you see an image of Jesus being white. Well, that was used so that white supremacy can flourish and people like us cannot be in charge versus people who are in charge. That was to keep people here. So there's people here stuck in this vicious reincarnation cycle and they don't know why. Well, they don't have enough melanin to ascend. So the Tower of Babel, when everyone used to speak all light language and then all of a sudden it stopped and everyone started speaking different languages. That's a Bible story that most people know about, even if you're not religious, because I'm not religious and I know that story. So it's pretty widespread. That was about the separation of people because we were all supposed to be one. We were all supposed to be of the Christos blood with the melanin. Ashira Star Goddess goes into it pretty well if you look at DNA, crystalline DNA on her channel. And I heard it and I channeled and they're like, yep, that's true. I was like, oh, for real? And it's interesting because, I have a biracial daughter. And when I met my ex-husband, I met his whole family. And I was like, if I don't like any person in your family, this isn't happening. And I liked them all. They're really great people. And it's funny because it's just like, when I asked about that, they were like, you guys were actually planned. You were supposed to do that. That was part of one of your missions that you agreed to do that when you came down here. Like this was going to happen for this family to get this the melanin in their bloodline. Like that was going to happen. I was like, interesting. All right. So melanated people have a certain place here, right? And so there is a very deliberate effort, the powers that be, the evil forces, to keep us dysfunctional. Because when we're in our power, they are not in power. Okay. When we are in power, they are not. So they've been doing things deliberately to keep us on a certain vibration level as melanated beings, so we would not come into our power. But too bad for them. Light workers like me were like, hey, you can't program me. Okay. I'm not part of your system. I was for a little bit, but I woke up real quick. Now I own my own business. I service the Black community. I don't, I can wear my hair anywhere I want to. I'm not trying to curry favor. I don't need to go to your part of town. I moved to an all Black neighborhood. Okay. Like I'm okay. And the food is great at my local Black restaurants. Okay. Catered to and for by me. So there's some of us who came this year and we're like, no, we're not doing this anymore. We're not going to be a part of this program. So I just wanted to say that because spiritually, me being melanated means something on this planet. Okay. So everyone being melanated means something on this planet. That is your place. That is why you came here. So when it comes to Black love and our dysfunction, trust and understand. There's I'm listening to these different women and it's interesting because I get these downloads when they're talking and they're like, there's a reason that, we get as Black women in this society, we only get congratulated and rewarded as warrior women, right? And we've taken that persona on for like 40, 50 years. And it's interesting because that exact warrior template is why our relationships, we are one half of why one half, right? As women, we are one half of why our relationships were a little bit dysfunctional because we weren't in our femininity. And you can't have two masculine energies in a relationship. Masculine energy is not bad. I use it for my business. I built a nice big business. I bring in multi-six figures. I'm an influencer. That was my masculine energy. It's not bad, but when it comes to a relationship, there's definitely a concerted effort for like us to stay as Black women in that warrior role and working, right? But not being in that feminine role. Like you got to understand these things are not just happening just by chance. There is a programming to keep us dysfunctional because a dysfunctional melanated race is one that can't bring in the justice. It's one that's not going to anchor in the will of God. It's one that's not going to challenge the system when we're dysfunctional. And they know that. So there is a concerted effort to keep us in this certain things. And so even myself, like now that I've been embracing the divine feminine, it flows right to the surface, right? Like it wasn't like, oh, what is this? I don't like it just like a butterfly. It was like overnight. Um get money. Get money said some low says on Twitter. Get money says most black women lie, as opposed to what are you saying? White women don't lie, or most white women lie too? And you think all women lie, or you're just really angry at black women? Can you please let me know? Okay, thank you. I'd really want to like you. So yeah. So most black women lie. So tell me, like, do Asian women lie? Do white women lie? Or you're just saying just black women lie from your viewpoint and your consciousness? Okay, because we can get into that. Compare. Oh, so you think white women lie less? Okay. Wow. Okay. Um, that level of like black women lie more than white women. Do you have any facts to back that up? Any studies? Anything like that? Because this anger and hatred towards black women that you are displaying, or this desire to put us beneath other women, is the other half of the story of our dysfunction. Okay. And we're going to get to that. But I really want to check yourself about why you would think one race of women lie more than another race, as if it's just one group of people who lie. Like that doesn't even make sense as far as humanity. Like this whole white supremacist society lies to you that they want equality. Whereas if they wanted that, it would have been gone a long time ago, okay? Overnight. So it's interesting. So you're a black man. I'm talking about black love. And the first thing you say is black women lie and said white women don't. Like you really need to examine where your anger and hatred came from and think about can you heal that so that your first response is a whole race of women lie more than others. Because I mean, that's not my experience, but you know, I'm not hurt, right? I don't hate. So oh, okay. Wow. Okay. And then get money. If you really think, oh my gosh, you're so the reason why our community, you're the other half. Yes. Okay. If in your consciousness you want to believe in your energy that black women lie more than white women, okay, guess what your energy is attracting? You're attracting the few black women who like to lie a lot. Okay. And my energy is that I can respect people as individuals and they have an individual journey. So I judge people on their individual journey and levels of consciousness and their level of anger, their level of anger and distress at their own women, right? Like I'm just going to take that as you present it and not say all men are like get money. But because I have that consciousness, guess what type of men, black men at that I attract? My energy is high level. I attract high level black men. So if you're attracting a certain type of woman, instead of projecting out, please work on yourself because you're attracting that for a reason. No one wants to hear that, but we have to. We can't sweep this under the rug. If your energy is that all black women lie, you are going to continue to attract lying black women. I don't care. If right now I said, all black men do this, trust and believe that energy in which I emit. And if you don't believe me, look at all my videos, which are very much consistent. Like I will attract that. Trust me. I have to watch what I say because I manifest so well, right? So I know the power of emitting. So if that's how I approached all black men, like you ain't shit, trust me, I would only get you ain't shit black men, but I don't do that. I would hope that you can raise I would hope, but it's your choice. You can raise your consciousness to understand. Thank you for saying I put it nicely. To understand that, like, heal yourself, remove the anger, because in that anger, because of past hurts, because we've all been hurt, right? But we have to heal it. You might be attracting the same thing that hurt you, right? And that's all I'm going to say on that. All right. So I'm going to get into it. So as melanated beings, us being dysfunctional is part of the plan. Us being dysfunctional means we're not united, and it means that we are not in position of power, which means that we can't bring in and anchor in the justice. So black love is very specific. Trump 21. Trump's a racist, but I don't mind him. So whatever. At all. So what was I saying? So yeah, it is important. They want to keep us dysfunctional. Now, that's what the programming has been. That is why we get so rewarded. There is no other woman that gets rewarded for being an activist, right? But they're like, yeah, Black women stay masculine. Like, we bought that program because it's just we lost so much of it over the years because we've had to fight um, alongside the men and sometimes and more than the men. But that's actually an issue too. So I've been giving messages from Sophia, which is the divine feminine energy that is here. And if you're not paying attention, you gonna get caught out, all right? Because she is here, and the women are like, if you have not been paying attention, they are exploding in their power and exploding in teaching their power and how to use it. So don't get left behind. So with the divine feminine here, Sophia gave me some very clear messages, and it's interesting how it ties into the Black community, not with hate, but in when you are in your divine feminine energy, you are the one that you're the gatekeeper to, and I got this from, this is really good. The universe guru is a girl who talks about divine and feminine energy. She's Indian and Pakistani. So she comes from this place of, we've kept hold of our ancient feminine knowledge because we've had to. And then she talks about India, how they're very masculine in energy because they're educated, they're working. And in Pakistan, they're not as educated on general, right? Of course, I've met people from both, but they're not. And so the women are still in their feminine energy, and their relationships and dynamic are looking very different. So Western programming has been programming us to be dysfunctional, right? So you got to really understand that outside of the Western programming, things are going hunky-dory for relationships, but that's part of the programming as well. So if a woman is in her empowered feminine, like you're looking at me and I am more of a woman in her empowered feminine. Of course, there's levels to everything, just like there's levels to spirituality, but definitely I am sitting in that place. And in that place, it is more of a instead of attacking, it's sitting and observing. Instead of having to lead in a relationship, I can let the man lead, right? And don't get it twisted that I'm not a strong woman. It has nothing to do with strength, really. Because you have to be really strong to have a healthy relationship, because sometimes I have to say things that are uncomfortable and tell people how I feel, and it's not positive on their end, but I have to say it even with the risk that if I say this, he's probably going to leave. Like if I set these boundaries, like I'm not going to have, sexual relations before a certain time or whatever. But there is a strength in this if you being empowered, setting your boundaries and being okay with weeding out 80% of the men. Or shoot, in my case, because I'm a little, I have value to myself and I know it. 90% of the people I talk to, I weed out. So, right? Because they're just, no. But if you are in that empowered place, not only are you the gatekeeper to the genetics that will go on, right? Which is a powerful place in the community if we really activate this. But you can also, we are the one thing on this earth that can inspire a man who's attracted to us to do better without having to nag, just by saying, this is what I feel or this is how I need it, for them to rise to the occasion. And so the message I'm getting so I'm saying, as a woman, when we empower this and when we embody this, we have the ability, just by being ourselves in our feminine, not masculine, not attacking, giving space, being compassionate, being warm as possible in the relationship, we have the ability to make someone who might be here go more just to be the provider. And we also have the ability to meet the provider. But in general, we have not been doing that. And the message from Sophia, and I say this with love, this is not about bashing, because there's two parts to whatever whole. The men in our community have a role to play, and the women have a role in this dysfunction. And then we also have to keep in context, people have wanting us to be in dysfunction because it makes us easier to pick off one by one. It makes us vulnerable. It makes us more susceptible to having to deal with their power struggles or whatever they want to do. If they want to, there's so many things they do in our community. That's why we have 10 million missing children. Okay. No one else does. Right. It's disgusting, but when you're vulnerable, when there's dysfunction, that's easier to do. So this is a subject where I'm saying the woman actually control, the men leads the relationship, but the woman controls everything else. The woman can support the man, can support the family, but if her energy is not high, right, it brings everyone down. And so right now with the divine feminine coming up, It is time for Black women to raise up. And what does that mean? The message from Sophia was we have to close our legs more, not in like Black women are more promiscuous than men. In society in general, women are sleeping with men more. Like that, like don't think, oh, Black women sleep. No, okay, it's all women. I am talking about Black women, but please understand everything I'm saying about us. There's just as many masculine white women who are in relationships and having turmoil as we are. Okay. So don't think, oh, like no. Um, but part of that is that, but and not in a way to, it's not disrespectful towards Black women. It's in a way like we have to start raising our standards for our men. And in raising our standards, that's the only thing. You can't nag men into doing what they don't want to do. You can't force them, you can't cajole them, you can't persuade them. But what you can do is withhold yourself, raise your standards, and trust and believe we are one of the things that will have a man, if they want that, rising to the occasion. So the message I received from the Holy Sophia, the counterpart, the divine feminine counterpart to the male God that we know, is we need to have higher standards. We need to close shop, and we need to do it now. And when we do it and heal ourselves in the process, it will automatically lift up the whole community. So that is some discernment, that is closing down, and it's not just letting anyone in. And it's not in a way that's saying Black women did this wrong or Black men did this wrong, because both sides of this equation have learned some behaviors that have been very negative and detrimental and kept us vulnerable and in dysfunction. But it's like now we have to do it. So my message now is like, as Black women, we have to raise our standards. We have to, and it's interesting, if raising your standards means going outside your race, that is okay. And I want to tell you guys a story, because when I opened up my options, I was around 13. So I was 13, and I remember consistently I'd be walking, because I had white friends, because I'm from the West Coast. We're really integrated. We're not like the South where it's like black and white, not on the West Coast. And this is where I got the message. So I'm 13 and I'm walking. I'm with this random white friend of mine named Brandy. And I remember seeing a group of Black boys our age, and they come up, they ignore me and go straight to Brandy. And I was cuter when I was 13, like when you get older. You know what I mean? And so, and I'm looking like, whoa, are you serious? All 5 of you guys bypassed the Black girl, didn't even want to talk to this. I'm 13, okay? So to talk to her. And Brandy's nice, not a looker, not anything special or great, just basic brunette. And slight, like she talked a little funny because she had some mouth issues, right? But whatever. And it's interesting because at that moment in time, I went, okay, no, you guys completely disregarded the Black woman for the white woman. Okay, so I saw this with my own eyes. And I remember talking to my brothers and sisters like, can you believe that? Like, that just blew my mind that was taking place. But there's also something that happened. Like, you're also looking at someone, I'm Lisa, I just never had low self-esteem like that. Maybe for like, I did a little bit for like a second, right? And so at that moment, I'm like, okay, well, if the Black men that I'm seeing in my neighborhoods are dating white women, well, then I'm going to date everyone as well. And being on the West Coast, it's more integrated. So I'm very happy that I grew up out there, because I just don't have any hangups about dating people of different races, where if you're born in the South as a Black man or Black woman, there is a lot of stigma, classism, and you get put in a place when you do it, right? So I'm glad I was on the West Coast. But at 13, when I saw that, I literally didn't know that was going on, right? That's when I was like, all right, you got to date everybody. Right? Because like, no, I'm not going to chase after any men, Black men at that. And that was the first, but it wasn't the last. If they're chasing white women, like, I don't compete with white women. And especially the ones that I saw in my experience, they were all like, it's funny because white women, when they compare, like, who date Black men, when they compare themselves to Black women, they always compare themselves to low income Black women who are a bit ghetto, right? And it's funny, if I ever compare myself to a white woman, it's like not trailer park, because they're not my equal. Like I'm different. Yeah, like I'm above that. I just am. If you're going to talk about class, education, socioeconomic status, it's funny that they compare themselves to that. And I was like, okay, that's your competition. And I'm like, I don't compare myself to the trailer park people. I just don't. But so I saw that and I opened up my options. And I also feel good about myself and I don't have low self-esteem. So, I dated everyone at that point. And it's interesting. I know in the Black community, if a woman dates a white man or something, some very low vibrational Black men. Now you got to understand, I have a whole platform that I've had for 8 years, and I work with Black investors. I work with Black investors of high socioeconomic status. They are doctors, they are lawyers, they are teachers. I mean, barely doctors, lawyers, nurses. They are PhDs, physicists. They are IT networks. They make six figures. You know what I mean? Mostly six figures plus, somewhere in that range. That is my thing. So I know there's a difference socioeconomically in low vibrational and high vibrational Black men and women, right? So I find that lower vibrational, like less educated Black men will be like bed wedge. The ones that I typically associate in my real estate investing platform for the last 8 years all over the country, they would never say that. Like, to them, it's like, yeah, of course, it's okay to be open, right? So I will say, in the Black community, depending on who your circle is, like my circle, I'm just not gonna lie, it's sort of high end, right? And that's whatever. So I didn't really see that, but for other women, if they date outside, you get this bed wench category, which I'm like, that's stupid. Like, how are you gonna judge someone for that? Like, as a woman, I get chosen. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Or if you get married, like a guy proposed to me. So what? I was supposed to wait for someone of the same color to propose to me when they're sitting here chasing white women? Like, what? Like, that doesn't even make sense that I would even put myself in a position to be undervalued, right? Like, so I'm just showing my own like experience with this. And so I was always open to dating more. And so I was married and now divorced happily, though. It was actually really good. We sort of spiritually just not a match anymore. But, I'm not a statistic. Like, only 33% of Black women get married, right? So I'm not a statistic. Like, I got married, I have a child. I didn't have a child out of wedlock. So 70 up to almost 80, like it's like 75 to 77% of Black kids are born out of wedlock. That's not my story. You know what I mean? But I did marry someone outside my race. And the thing I'm saying is that if you have a high sense of value, if you're open, you're not going to be the short end of the stick. You're only going to be the short end of the stick if you limit yourself. And the message I received from Sophia is that we have to raise the bar. We have to close the shop. We have to raise the standards, because the Black community is not where it needs to be. But if we do this with love and compassion, it will raise them up. Like, it will force them to be better. It will force them to rise up in a way that means you can't nag a man to do anything. Okay. And the man I date, like, I already know I can't control them. So if I ask something, it is a request and they can say no. And I'm sitting and observing, are they saying no to this? Dang, I don't know if this is the guy for me. Right. And those are still the standards. Like, you have to sit and observe what they do. But it is time for us to do that. And it's the only way to force the stepping up of the other half of our community into that provider, protector, I value you role. But not closing up shop, letting it open, not looking outside your options means if they want to put another woman above you, they can. And you're sitting there waiting on them and trying to fit yourself to that versus having the high value and staying. I am live. Yeah. So in general, the message is, in order to make our community better, us have as the women, because I don't know if I think you guys know this. And I think that's where a lot of frustration from Black men come. Oh, thank you, Dior. That we do hold the power if we do hold ourselves to high standards. And I think you get frustrated that you see so many babies born out of wedlocks with dudes that you think are like, he's horrible. And like I said, there's two parts to this. So you are correct on that end. But there's also on your end, there's definitely, you have to rise up, and you're not doing it on your own motivation. So the messages I'm receiving is that us raising ourselves and holding ourselves to higher standards is going to force you. And that is the message I am receiving right now on the Divine Feminine and Black Love and Black community. Close shop, raise our standards, date outside your race if you have to. But that's the only thing that's going to force the men, when they don't have a available supply of women, to step into the role that they've always meant to be in, because they have to be a hunter. They have to be a predator at that point. They have to compete. And our men, just like myself, if they have to compete, they will compete. Right now, the competition's not there because we're wide open and we're not discerning and we're letting just sort of anyone. And look, I'm gonna be very honest. I was part of that too, letting some situationships go way too long. And I'm saying situationships because I don't want to be cussing on here and calling it what it really was, right? So we were all part of it. But like once I learned these lessons, I was like, okay, no, we're not doing this. We're going to stop with the booty calls and you're going to take me on dates. And sitting back and seeing, like, did they run or did they step up and start taking me on dates? He ran. So. But that's okay because then I'm dating 3 other men who are taking me on dates, and the shop is closed, and it is like a realization, and I am in my feminine, and they are like, it's an addiction, it's an energetic addiction because it's the one place if you open with warmth and let them lead and don't react and just sort of sit and observe. And you watch my other videos about it, it's like a place that our men can be and feel so comfortable and at peace. It's an energetic thing. They energetically can feel it. It's addictive because I mean, I, I'm just gonna say, like, when I'm in my feminine, which more and more now it's natural. Like I'm not have to like, it comes from within, and it's just there. Like I'm like, I want to talk every day. Like I'm busy, and I tell them that I'm busy, but because I just don't have time for all that with all my other activities. But like when we're in our feminine, it is a place where our men in our community can be at peace and can relax. So it's a beautiful thing. It's energetic. And it's funny because it is energy. If you guys have been paying attention to me, when I tapped into divine feminine, I'm like, there's a power there. I want to see the power. And it's interesting because when you do it, but not just on the, I put on makeup and a dress way, but you go deeper into like, can you be a place of non-reaction? Can you be a place of observing? Can you be a place of like setting boundaries, but not attacking, right? Can you do that? I'm finding when you do that, like it's this invisible thing that even guys I'm not talking to can feel it. So it's funny because now when I go out, I'm like, I know y'all gonna say hi because they don't know, but it's an energy thing, and they're like, oh, for some reason this energy feels really soft, and I like it. So it's a very, very powerful thing. So I suggest you guys, if you want, especially the women on here or even the men, because it's interesting when men are listening too, because they get it and I've seen that they actually like the expression of this because they didn't know how to articulate it. They're angry about it, but they're like, yes, that is what I'm looking for. So I said, go to my YouTube videos and look at the Divine Feminine talks on relationships. But it's this beautiful, beautiful place that's very warm and accepting. And I still put boundaries, like, a situationship, like we can't just do this, 11 o'clock call. As nice as it was a Scorpio, so it was actually really nice. But I don't want to get too deep into that. But we can't just keep doing that. And putting those boundaries, like this is what it has to be. I want to go out, da 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 da, and like sitting and observing instead of being like you have to do this because you can't control a man. Sitting, telling them how you feel, this is what you want, and sitting and seeing if they do it or not. Do they run? Or do they step up? But the reality is, I might have had one runner, but I've had 3 others are stepping up. And it's a beautiful, beautiful place to be. And that is our role, being in our feminine, of how powerful it is seeing like this advancement and evolution of the men you're around because they want to do it. You can't nag or force them to. So, that's sort of, I don't want to go too far into it, but when it comes to divine feminine, if I had to set it up, Black women, raise your standards. It's going to make the men work and compete more, which is going to make them better. This is with love, but I got 2 huge messages about like, we have to do this. We are the woman. We have to be strong. And sometimes that's hard because you don't always want to say you're uncomfortable or say that hurt your feelings or say that that's too soon because you're scared they might leave. But that is like where our real strength comes in. But it also gives them boundaries and it gives them the chance. And I've been noticing when I've done this, instead of reacting, it gives them a chance to step up. And I've seen it, and I'm seeing an evolution in like thought and character because that space was given. So, yeah. So, any questions for the people who watch the whole live stream that you have about it? Okay, if you guys just joined, you missed it. I would absolutely recommend you go back and check it out. It's okay if you have some thoughts about it. I'm not coming at this in a way where I'm trying to attack anyone. It's just the reality we have to accept. But like, what can we do now? And it takes two of us, but us working on ourselves can raise the other up. Yeah, yeah. Sayed Latrec, aka Mr. Research Ados. Yeah, yeah. I'm noticing a very it's before the healing. Someone would say something wrong and it's either attack or block them or cut them off. And I'm noticing it. So I had to, that's part of working through this instead of being reactionary, right? Which is a masculine trait. That's being in your masculine energy. I'm learning that there's an evolution that can occur giving people the space and not just letting your emotions be pulled because they say something. And I gave an example on my other page that I was talking to a guy on a dating app and I was like, hey, the vibe's a little off. And in this energy, when I'm in my feminine energy, which I am more and more now, I'm saying it like it's a separate thing, but honestly, now it's like every day, like I'm just naturally in it. He got mad, and there was like three or four texts like, "Well, you did this, and your vibe was off, and I tried this, and da 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 da." And I remember seeing it and not reacting because it's just not the energy I'm in now. And it was just like, huh, because when you're observing how something goes by. And I remember when I went back and the next day, because I didn't want to answer that day. So that's also part of being in your feminine energy. You don't have to just immediately do something that's masculine. Like, let it sit and marinate. And I was just like, that today, I just don't feel like doing it. And the next day, I sent a text and it was very interesting, the whole change of giving that space, because I'm like, hey, I said our vibe was off, but you immediately took it to mean as if you did something wrong or I was accusing you or something. And the reality is, if someone's vibe's off, there's no one's fault. It's just natural. But, I'm curious why you took it so personally as if I was attacking you, and that wasn't the case. And it was interesting, like, just being really calm because I really am just looking like, well, that's how you're going to act. Okay. But you could have reacted in other ways. And it was interesting that calm sort of like communication about like what was going on versus being super reactionary and not just blocking him. Because after all those texts, I could have just like, oh, you're blocked. And working through that, like giving the space, it was interesting how the energy completely shifted to, because my energy was at that level, to him going, oh, he thought about it. He was like, oh, I apologize and I'm sorry and I understand. And he was like, I did take it a certain way. And, I see I shouldn't have now. And I was like, wow. So being in your feminine and just observing and not be reactionary and sitting with something, seeing how it made you feel and coming back with like, I observed this, I expected something else, was interesting how it brought him up to a more, I thought, emotionally intelligent level, right? Because I was firm in my divine feminine energy, letting it come, but like not letting it shake me. His anger did not shake me, right? So there's something, so it like I'm seeing this evolution of a woman in her feminine, but a strong feminine can actually get other people to rise with them. And so it's interconnected. But let me see the comments about the polarization. My best friend got the vaccine, and I'm not sure how to move forward with our friendship. Boo boo, pray on it. Everyone has their own journey. Everyone has their own journey, and so I will have to accept people in my family doing it. Now, I told them not to, and they generally listen if I'm very strong. Like, do not get like, and I was very strong. And I said what it was, a spiritual work, like whatever. But they might do it anyways, right? And at the end of the day, the guidance from my angel guides and my ancestor guides was like, look, like this is a 3D illusion. You're all together up here. But if that's their soul's journey, they have the right to their journey to figure out the hard way that this happened and go through learning lessons that are going to happen because they cannot ascend at the level that they wanted to. So the polarization is taking place. You're aware of the polarization, Mercury. So I would say for that, pray over her, pray that she awakens, pray that she ascends, pray that she understands because prayers are powerful. If you do prayers, I do manifestations, so I'll burn a candle or do a crystal grid. Y'all can just look behind me. I got all sorts of magical workings going on. So I do it that way. But you can also prayer too if that's what you're more comfortable with. And but yeah, just acceptance. So if you're around them and you don't talk about these things that are negative, that pulls your vibration down, you're fine. And I say continue as long. But if you feel that your vibration is getting pulled down when you're around her, I would minimize, if you can, what you're doing, or try to avoid the subjects. It's hard to get rid of the best friend for like this one aspect, but just really watch your energy. And if it's not being pulled lower, right? Because if she got it, she might be in a lower state of consciousness. Like on my timeline, it's just like, oh, I'm so scared. And I'm like, I'm not, right? Like your fear has nothing to do with me of COVID. It just doesn't. So just working really hard to make sure it doesn't pull you down. But I would keep the friendship as long as you can navigate it in a way, and pray over her that she wakes up to the ascension process and the spiritual warfare taking place. So say Mr. Research Ados. Question. Earlier you said working women in the warrior role. If the working woman has unnurtured children, is that not anti-feminine for the kid's development? Hmm. That's sort of double edged because you can still work and still be able to be an influence in your child's development and rearing, right? So I would say it's double edged. Like in general, you can just say in general, no, you have to be there all day to bond with them and strengthen it. And I think everyone knows that is ideal, but we did get caught up into this. We are working to have independence because I will say there was a lack of trust that we would, only 30% of black people get married. Okay. So there is some level, even for me, I built a business because there was a lack of trust that, I would find someone who can give me the lifestyle I want. So I can just do it. So there was trust in that other side would come through. So I think we all know at the end of the day, staying at home with your kids in our feminine role is an optimal place to be, but there's also a reality that that's optimal. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work in other ways and that you still can't be a wonderful, beautiful influence on your child, right? So I will say double edged sword. There's no absolutes in this conversation. And if anyone's giving you absolutes, they're at a lower consciousness because that's just not what it's about, because you can be in a horrible situation working all the time. But I know my mom would she worked swing shift, which was 3 to 11, so I didn't see her during school. Whew, but did she call every day, twice a day? And I had a conversation with her twice a day about like this and da da da. And the weekends, I mean, she still instilled in me a lot of values of taking care of the earth, being kind, having compassion, caring about the community, doing what's right, having integrity, not stealing. Like, you could still get the values and be reared as needed. Now, I will be very honest, like my mom was very much in a masculine role energy, and she never learned it, but they came from like extreme poverty, 14 families and 3 houses poverty, okay, in Louisiana. And there's certain places in the South. It's not like the West where it's like, look, if you're able-bodied, you can get a job. In the South, they try to keep black people in a certain demographic in a certain place. And like that gets lost. You're not around different people who can teach you these things. You're just in these isolated little bubbles of like oppression. So yeah, no absolutes in this. It's always just like a fluid thing of day to day that you have to take per situation, because like I said, just because it's not ideal does not mean it can't work out perfectly. You said, great comment earlier. That's not my experience. I'm not hurt. You asked him to examine where his anger comes from. Yeah, yeah. Like on some hands, I'm still like, there's still some of that wanna, like I'm a warrior, like, and I've been a warrior, right? Except for the last few years coming more into, I try to be a more compassionate place. But it's like, there is a little bit of the instinctive wanting to react, but I am more of a like, wow, you just said that? Like, why? And this isn't like a relationship where like I would probably be even more soft. Like if this was a guy I was dating, I would be like, huh. I would literally, if it was a guy I was dating, I'd take the day to think about it and then come back with like my feelings about it and what I observed. This was like a faster interaction online. But yeah, my instincts were being more in that like laid back energy. Is like, why do you feel that way? And then understand, hey, it always starts and ends with you. So we have to Like, look, I did not get up here and say black men this and black men that and like I did not. Like, it's not. We don't have to be negative in this discussion for healing and growth. And so for him, I'm like, get money. I think he's on too. Um, like, yo, man, it has to start and end with us. We can't just keep projecting. We can't just be angry. 'Cause that's just gonna bring more anger. Like this is a time right now in 2021 where it's like you attract what you put out. So thank you. I'm glad you noticed that. It's just more of a change. Yeah, and that is part of that divine feminine. It's observing instead of just reacting. And like I said, if I was dating, I probably would have taken a day to think about that and let him know the next day how I felt. Probably even more calm than today versus going, "What'd you say? Oh no, you didn't. Da, 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 da. You think black women this? We're done." It's a different energy. And there's nothing I would say wrong about that reaction because that is a normal reaction. So learning this feminine art of just observing, laying back and not being reactionary is like, it's a skill set, but I'm definitely seeing the benefits in interpersonal communication and how there's growth on both ends if one party can take that role versus both going at it, right? So I'm noticing in the roles that I am with the dating, and like I'm like, I don't think I'll ever get married because I really enjoy dating. So like I'm just getting so much love. Like imagine how it's not a bunch of arguments at that point. It is, this is how I feel about it, and the guy ignores that. He steps up. He tries to provide for it. If he gets mad and leaves, that's you to observe and go, okay, am I going to stay in the situation because I don't have to? And going, you know what? I don't like he's not caring for me. And honestly, my relationship, I'm actually going to do a video on like why we got a divorce because I'm looking at it through the divine feminine. I could no longer trust him with my feelings. I can never, no longer. And we got to a point where I, if I was unhappy and like I told him, he didn't make the moves, right? And then there was a realization. I was like, I can't trust him with my happiness like I did before. um so it's just about, and I left, right? So it's not, so having this balance, if he's always going at you and you don't have to take it. I'm just saying, observe it, but also observe your way out the door if he needs it or if he can't be the person that you need him to be. And that's being the divine feminine, not taking things so seriously because you always have the choice to leave and go get something better. And as long as that choice to leave and always get something better is there, I think it actually activates the masculine to continue to want to compete or continue to want to step up even further because they know that you can get someone else, right? So that is also a subtle underlying way that inspires the masculine energy to rise because you're rising and you're not taking it, right? So, Mercury said it is really hard. Mercury has a friend, oh, I feel so bad for you because I know. So it really was hard. The other day, she had a whole breakdown because she thought she was losing her sense of taste. I just feel she can't see her own negativity. She doesn't trust the universe. Oh, boo boo. I would pray over her. I would manifest for her, do some magic. Like, honestly, instead of praying, it's easier for me to light a white candle and say, I hope she awakens or I hope she cleanses, raises her vibration. It is just so much easier for me to do that. And if you're into that, I would just do that and let the spirit world like help her in her evolution and growth. But that's all you can do, either pray or magic. I know magic sounds crazy to people, but like my ancestral lineage is magician. Like, we're magicians. I asked the angels, like, what am I? I manifest way too well. And they were like, you're a magician, you're a magi. And then my ancestors and working with Merlin the wizard, yep, he is a spiritual being. You can connect with him. I actually have a healing where I connected people with him in my introduction to channel how magic works class. Sia says, I would suggest to you that it's not 30%, it's actually 45%. I don't believe it's 30%. When you look at the tracking measure they use, they start at 15 years old. I believe it's 3%. I mean, like, because there's one thing where it's like you have people in your family, and that's anecdotal, right? And you have like the facts by the Brookings Institute. And I think the Brookings Institute has it like at 33%, a little bit higher. Right. And I gotta say, my personal family matches like the Brookings, right? Like my personal friends, like all these booed up couples who aren't married actually match that. And usually it's like, oh, I know they say this, but I don't see that in my friend. Like, I see it. So we can't get mad at that. Let's just accept it. You can't just say I don't accept it. You know what I mean? Like you have to do your own study. We can't be like that. We have to be not scientific, but we can't act like numbers are a lie just because we don't like it, right? So we will see what studies are being commissioned and how they're getting their sample sources, but um, you know, 33% is the current mode for people who put the time, effort, and research into it. So we have to go by that versus going, I don't like that, or I think it's higher. I think we're better at it. We can't do that. We got to go by the numbers, and that makes us be taken seriously. Outside of our community and within our community. Baraka Muita. Hi, Lisa. Can I get a one-on-one guidance on a Zoom meeting or other media? Yeah, go to My Soul Powered Life if you want it for the healing. If you want it for the real estate investment, go to affordablerealestateinvestments.com. And either way, I do consultations for either or. But yeah. And Mike Smith says, yeah, I live with a feminist and she's real tough on me. Oh, yeah. Oh, gosh. Can you send her my videos? Because we have to listen. I was one of them. So I'm not talking about a place of I'm superior to anyone. These are things that I had to undertake. And I realized that, in my last relationship, my marriage, it was since my marriage, I've been dating. It's been like 2 years. It's been all like masculine men. So I've been very much in my feminine because there was just no opportunity. Like you meet a man, you can't control them. Like you just need to sort of like let them like let him go, right? But in my marriage previously, like definitely he was more feminine and I was more masculine, and he triggers me. Like I'm super feminine everywhere else, and then I talk to him and I immediately go to this is what has to get, because like I just don't have any trust that he can do it. But even with him, even though he's my ex, I have been moving more into the feminine role, and it's very interesting. Give me Google eyes again. Mike, oh, I'm so sorry. It's so interesting. Well, you definitely have to, you need to have strong boundaries too, because I don't want you weren't here earlier, but I had somebody who was very angry at Black women thinking they're all, liars. And I'm like, oh, that's so sad that you think that, but like, if that's in your energy, please, if that's in your heart, that's what you attract. But you need to, I would say, Mike Smith, that you need to have boundaries. If there's some healing that she needs to do on how to be, it is nice when a masculine man and a feminine woman can live together, because you don't have two people competing. It's like it's the complementary energy. Like he might do this, but you're doing that, and it goes in a circle versus like this antagonistic thing, right? Like I told you the example, throw something at me, well, I'm going to circle around and then bring it back to you in this way, right? It's a completely different energy of interacting. It's complementary. It's like the yin and I'm doing this because it's like the yin and the yang, right? Like you do this, I do that. So we're never really supposed to, which is why I love my dating world right now, because we're not clashing. That's not what happens. But you have your boundaries, and if she's being too tough, like you have every right to say this is how you feel, but you also have the right to leave. And women need to learn that as well. And if she needs to do her own healing to make it easier, maybe you can pray over her, magic over her, or like send her some stuff like, hey, I think this is really interesting. She was saying like, that's how this thing goes around, because we're not reacting the same way to certain things, right? So I feel for you. I want you to be able to rise up and do what's best for you, though. But there's healing and knowledge transfer that needs to be taken place. And not everyone, and you know what though? I think it's like exploding right now. So she actually might get the memo. Mercury said, I was planning on buying a white spirit candle from a local shop tomorrow. I'll pray on it and move with acceptance. Thank you, Lisa. Oh, you're welcome. I hope it helps. Like it's just, I've done candles for my whole family's protected. So I've done candles, all of them. They don't even know they're protected. I'm making sure they're ascending. I'm making sure they're aware. Like there is a 7-day candle for my family burning constantly. They don't know. They don't have to know. It's just part of my practice. And so you can do the exact same with your loved ones or pray to me. And so here's why I just light a candle versus praying. Praying, I got to think about and take time out of my day to do. Whereas if I do a candle, I can just spend that, 10 minutes setting the intention and letting it go. It's working for me. I don't know if you guys know, but I'm really into passive income. So rental properties, monthly memberships, books, like I am into passive income. So of course I like magic better because I can just sort of take the 10 minutes to set it up and then it's working on my behalf forever. Right. So that's why I go to that route because I just don't want to like have to go, okay, I got to think about it again. Like I'm doing stuff. I'm busy. Mike says, yeah, but I'm saying she's a feminazi. Well, I'm thinking I'm really macho. Oh, she's like, I don't like that. Hey, something has to change or something needs to pull apart. But macho man. Macho's good. Some people pray on whether or not to buy a candle. No, not on whether or not to buy a candle. They pray on um pray on their friend. So her friend is not as aware and as awakened, and it's causing a rift in her friendship. And Mercury was just talking about it. And so I said, hey, pray on your friend or light a candle with that intention to awaken your friend or whatever you pray on her. Some people who are more religious are like, I will pray on it. And they're more comfortable with that. Like the idea of getting a candle or crystals is like too much for them. So for me, I do, I don't do the prayers, but I understand that it happens. So I always say it both ways, just in case the person I'm talking to is more religious and that is what they're comfortable with. And that's how they manifest or pray over their family or protect their family. Whereas, it's 50-50. Half my audience is like, give me a crystal grid and I'm going to do a candle. I'm going to set an intention. I'm going to burn a bay leaf, right? Which is activating the higher dimensional consciousness. So that's what I meant by that. So any other questions before I leave? And I actually have one more video I'm going to do on the divine feminine and warmth. Like, what is this feminine warmth that is so attractive and makes like your area like a warm, safe place for them to be? That's like, I'm going to tell you, it's like addictive. Like I literally like, I love the men who I'm attracting because, I'm manifesting like, I'm not manifesting scrubs. I said, universe, I want an emotionally intelligent, compatible, masculine man. Like I'm very specific and that is what I'm getting because I manifest, right? I don't just go into dating like, oh, I hope I find the right person. No, universe, you're bringing me who I want, right? And so I'm going to talk about the divine, like feminine warmth that like I've been incorporating and what that means. What does that look like? And I'm going to do that video next because it's so important. Because it's not just you holding back and not reacting the way he does and being feminine where he's masculine, but it's also like, how do you create a warm space where the energy and the glow is good? And I'm telling you, it's addictive. Like they really just want to be around you and around you and around you. And it's a beautiful feeling to be like, just appreciate it like that. But it's a thing that you can start incorporating. And it's funny because I don't just do it with men now. I do it with everyone. Like, you're going to get more of a warm reception than you would have gotten just a year before. Juanita said, yes, passive income. I've been looking into opportunities for that. How do you use the divine feminine in work? I use it in a couple ways. So magic is attracting, like manifesting and magic, for me, they're the same. That's attracting things to you. That's like, I want this universe. I will release it to you to bring it to me. That's very much divine feminine. Because there you have to surrender, you release, you're not actively necessarily going like, make this happen. You are putting out into the universe and you're waiting and observing to see with trust what you're brought. So in my business, I have like a manifestation, like I want to sell 100 books a day, right? Now I might sell 10, but whatever. Like that is my manifestation, right? And so I'm attracting that energy, which is supporting any efforts I make towards it. So creation and manifesting that comes out of your sacral chakra, your womb chakra, the orange one right above your, right? That's who we are as women. So when you're using your manifestation abilities, that is very much in your divine feminine. And then my masculine activities are like, okay, well, if I want to sell it many, let me see if I can go on 6 podcasts this month, right? So, a big part. Now, the other part of like the warmth that I'm learning and sitting in this place is that you give people the room to make a mistake without immediately reacting. And that has a way of elevating them because you're observing. And when I communicate, I usually communicate what I observed and like, oh, I thought it would have went this way versus that way. And you're doing it in such a calm manner, but you're showing them like, oh, I thought this higher way of doing this would have happened, but you took this lower way and I'm curious why. It gives them a space to grow. But I'm also definitely, and I'll talk about this on the warmth one, The warmth is there. And before I'm just shooting off emails and letters, but man, like stopping to take the time to like engage first with some happiness, with some, especially my workers, they're really enjoying it because before I'm like, dude, just do this. I'm just typing up and I'm not like talking, I'm like typing it up, do this. But now it's like, hey, Rachel, how's Colombia? So definitely there's more warmth and attention to people. And active listening is part of this as in the divine feminine energy. So that's a skill set. So just not interrupting and letting people have the space to speak. Like, okay, you said this. Okay, can you explain a little bit more before I just go into da 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 da, right? It's giving people space and room to be themselves, to make mistakes, and also just letting them know that you see them. You see them, you see them. Like the other day, I was in a meeting, and usually I don't say anything, but like this need to tell the organizer, thank you so much for putting this meeting together. I just wouldn't have done that before. But now it's a part of like whenever you're around someone, you try to see the beauty or the good or the positivity first and let them know you see them, right? So that's part of like active and whole body listening, but it's also this warmth. And so I'm going to go into that in more detail. So that's been showing up in my business, which actually has an effect because people are like so disarmed, and I'm not doing it strategically. This is just part of like what I'm embracing, which was already always in me. But they're definitely like melting a little bit because they're like, oh, well, that was nice. I didn't expect that. And like before, I just wouldn't take the time to do it. But now it's like a need. Like I can't not let you know I see you and I value you and I'm hearing you. Like I just can't not do that and give you the space to speak right at your own pace. So I would say that's the difference when you start incorporating this. Mike Smith said, can you talk about your strategy for sourcing off-market rental properties? Is Mike, Mike, this is my spirituality channel. Yes, I can in detail. I was on a group coaching call today. We're looking at houses in, where we're looking, Ohio, Kansas, and Illinois. So yes, I can. And seller financing in New York, Rochester, New York, and how to set up her email. So yes, I can, but this isn't the channel. Go to my other channel, Affordable Real Estate Investments. I do plan on doing a live today, this week. So if you subscribe, you'll get the live notification when I'm going to go into details on that and Bitcoin. All right. So good. I'm going to go right now because I don't know if I'm going to do this video tonight. It's 12:40, and honestly, I just want to I want to go to bed. So I'll do it tomorrow. But yeah, please stay tuned because honestly, like with all this talk about divine femininity, if you're not so there's different aspects. So it is like a multi-layered thing. But yeah, there's like looking nice. Okay, I always wear a dress and I wear a little bit of like makeup minimally. There is observing and sitting back, right? Okay, like not being reactionary. The man's reactionary. So, like I said, you keep going in circles and there's no conflict when you react in the feminine, right? Like, yeah, you're like, okay, this is how I feel. Let me think about it. I'll come back and tell you, right? Like time and space. You're in this beautiful yin yang because you're not the same type of person, right? Like you're not giving the same type of energy. But the other aspect is warmth. That is what makes people want to be around you. And I was talking to this about David. If you watch my Divine Feminine videos, he came on, he was like, yeah, you know what that is? That's like, it's a soft, stable ground of energy that they can be in, where they're not feeling attacked. They're not feeling harassed. They're feeling that you really accept them for who they are and letting them take the time to do it. So the warmth and that you see them, that you heard what they just said, and that you appreciate what they just did. And I'm calling it warmth, but it's that's the power. Okay. That's where the power lies. I've noticed when I incorporate this in my dating or just with friends, like that is where you become someone who has the ability to make someone feel good, right? So you can look pretty all you want. Doesn't mean you make people feel good. You can sit back and observe, which gives people the space to be themselves, which is beautiful because I know calming for me when I can be around people who can let me be myself, maybe make mistakes, and I know I'm not going to get cut off or cussed out. But then the warmth is what makes people feel good when they're in your presence. And you mix that with the feminine energy is something that the masculine men really, really are, I mean, it's almost addictive, but like they're like, I want more of this. I want more of this feeling. It feels good. It feels warm. I love this feeling, right? It's like that love bubble that gets created. So I want to go into that. And so thank you guys so much for coming by. This is a big subject, but I hope you guys understand that like there's no hate here. Like it's just facts, and we all will be doing better. We all need to do better, and we will be doing better. So I'm saying enjoy the ride, and be a part of the change and the solution. And with that, I'll talk to you guys later. I'll do this other one on divine feminine and warmth tomorrow. Bye. Thank you guys so much. I got lots of hearts, a lot of people here. Appreciate it.